Good morning from Mississippi. Welcome to Kid in Life channel. Today we will continue study about the Good Life book with my lovely one.
Good morning. We are here in Mississippi, in the state of Mississippi, which is a cold, gray day in January. We are going to be reviewing a book that my wife and I are reviewing. It's called The Good Life, and it was written by Dr. Waldinger and Dr. Schultz. They are the director and assistant director of a Harvard study group. This group has been studying people now for over 85 years now. And they look at what happiness in a relationship can bring to one's life. And so we've been covering the first chapter and started on the second chapter. So we have been just plugging away at this. What makes a good life and why relationships matter. That's what we're working on now is second chapter, why relationships matter.
Okay, so we will start page number 49 today.
And where we're starting, it says, slicing up the happiness pie. The researcher and psychologist Sonia Libonsky has argued with compelling evidence that there are real answers to the question, what makes us happy? In an analysis that would have made Epictetus proud, she examined the degree to which our level of happiness is changeable. You got to remember that yesterday when we talked about this, that malleable factors have been shown to affect an individual's quality of life across many disparate circumstances. So, what makes us happy? Building on finding from a large collection of studies, from happiness of twins raised in different families to the connection of life events with well-being, she sought to discover the mutability of happiness. Previous research suggests that human beings, have a happiness set point or a baseline level of happiness that is influenced largely by genetics and personality traits. Regardless of how unhappy we feel through one period or how great we feel through another, we are pulled towards that set point. This is a robust finding that has been discussed in the psychological literature for decades. In general, after something happened that causes us to feel happier or sadder, that boost or dips begins to dissipate and we return to the general level of happiness we've always felt. For example, 1 year after winning the lottery, those lucky lottery winners are indistinguishable from the rest of us when it comes to happiness. But if it seems like the happiness set point means that our well-being is set in stone, it's worth pointing out that the glass is half full here, or at least 40% full. Her and her colleagues use research data to estimate that our intentional activity counts for a lot when it comes to happiness. Our actions and the choices we make account for about 40% of our happiness. That's a sizable chunk that is still within control. These findings reveal one of the most essential and hopeful truths about human beings. We are adaptable. We are resilient, industrious, and creative creatures who can survive incredible hardships, laugh our way through tough times, and come out stronger on the other side. But there's another side to this. As the concept of a happiness set point and research about lottery winners show, we also get used to better circumstances. Our emotional well being cannot improve into infinity. We settle in. We tend to take things for granted. This is a key point in the discussion about money. You might believe that making six figures or landing a new job or upgrading from your old Honda will make you happy. But in short order, you will have gotten used to that situation too, and your brain will move on to the next challenge, the next desire. Not even lottery winners can remain euphoric forever. This does not point to a flaw in the human character, but to a biological fact. We meet all experiences, positive and negative, on the same psychological and neurological playing field in our brain. Here, the science dovetails with a central tenet of Stoicism and Buddhism, as well as many other spiritual traditions. The way we feel in life is determined only in part by what happens around us, and to a great extent by what happens inside us. David Foster Wallace, in his Kenyan commencement speech that we quoted earlier, noted that modern Western culture, although it applies to others as well, has done to these mental playing fields we all have, providing us extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal feeling. The freedom to be lords of our tiny skull sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. This kind of freedom has much to recommend it. But of course, there are all different kinds of freedom, and the kind that is most precious, you will not hear much talked about in the great outside world of winning and achieving and displaying. The real important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline and effort. Also, and being able to truly care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in myriad petty little unsexy ways every day.
So
So
overall,
let's look at this.
okay, slicing up the happiness pie.
Yes, let's take a look at that. That's a lot of information. Uh, this one woman looked at a large study because she's, was looking for what changes happiness. Now, previous research said that we have a set point in our life where we're happy. We might go above it occasionally, we might go down below it occasionally, but we always work back towards that one set point of happiness.
Okay.
Even, she said, lottery winners,
Yeah.
people that have that euphoric feeling of winning the lottery. Well, after a year, their happiness point goes back down to where it was.
Yeah, so happy and sad, happiness and sadness, it come together, up and down, up and down.
Well, this woman and her colleagues use data to, uh, says estimate our intentional activity counts for a lot when it comes to happiness. Our action choices we make account for 40% of our happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are successful in doing something,
Mm-hmm.
that counts for 40% of our happiness in life.
Only 40%.
Yeah, that's a sizable chunk that
Mm-hmm.
is still in our control.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 60% that we can control.
Oh, 40% is what you say?
Our actions and choices we
We
make
make
account for about 40%
40%
of our
happy.
happiness.
Uh-huh.
That's a sizable chunk that is still within our control.
Or without control. We cannot control, right?
Hmm.
Out of control is 60%. Okay, okay.
And again, what it reveals is we are adaptable. We can change.
We can change. Mm-hmm.
We've
If we want to.
look at the people that have had tragedy in their life, that uh, dealt with family deaths, friends,
Mm-hmm.
and disasters.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, after a while, they come back and they go on with life and they try and enjoy life as much as they can. That's
Mm.
because humans are adaptable.
Okay.
It says, we go through tough times and we tend to come out stronger on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So, this section basically says that we are adaptable, we are resilient,
Mm-hmm.
we can go through good times and bad times, but when we go through bad times, we come out stronger on the other end.
Okay. So we adjust or adapt.
Yes.
Okay. The engine of a good life.
On page 51, Leo DeMarco, the high school teacher, had 4 children. 3 of them continue to participate in the study. In 2016, his daughter, Catherine, visited our offices for an interview and a series of assessment of her physical health and her approach to navigating emotional challenges. During these visits, which typically took about half a day, we asked participants to share memories of a difficult or low moment in their life. That's when these people go to their office and get interviewed.
Okay.
These experiences are illuminating from both a human and a scientific point of view, since low moments are often formative and also give us some indication of how people cope with difficulties. When we asked Catherine to share a low moment, she wrote about the following experience.
Okay. What she wrote. When my husband and I were trying to become parents for the first time, I had 4 miscarriages.
Miscarriages in a
Miscarriages.
relative short period of time. This was probably the first time in my life that I felt things were out of my control. There is a saying that you learn more from failure than you do from success. And looking back on this time is when I learned that. It tested me and my husband. And I remember being aware that we needed to be on the same page as a couple so the desire of becoming a family did not become all consuming in our lives. This was a period that brought a lot of sadness to me and my husband. But I also look back to it as a time that we learned to really be a team when the going got tough. We also consciously chose not to let the experience of trying to start a family take over our lives. We had chosen each other as partners, and we needed to take care of each other, with or without children. Leo's daughter, Catherine,
Mm-hmm.
talked about a low time in her life
Okay.
when her and her husband were trying to have children,
Okay.
and she had 4 miscarriages. Miscarriages when she was pregnant and she lost the baby.
Ah, wow.
And she said that her and her husband could have got depressed, could have broke up, but her and her husband had chosen each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to work together as a couple, as a team, as partners,
Uh-huh.
and they became stronger because
Okay.
of this trouble.
The trouble sometimes make people stronger.
Yes,
Okay.
here, relationships are not just essential as stepping stones to other things, and they're not simply a functional route to health and happiness. They are ends in themselves. So, this little statement here,
Relationships are not just
just
essential
essential,
as stepping stones to other things, and they are not simply and functional routes to health and happiness.
they are ends in themselves.
Oh, yeah, they are ends in themselves.
Yes, that means it's the relationships that get us through hard times.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine cared deeply about having a child, but she understood that nurturing her marriage was vital and important in and of itself. Whether they reached the goal of parenthood together or not, while we try as scientists to qualify their effects on us, relationships are full of rich and consistently shifting momentary experiences. And this is part of what makes us live lively antidotes to the repetitions of material life.
Mm-hmm.
Again, relationships are full of rich and consistently shifting momentarily experiences. So,
Relationships are full of rich and constantly shifting momentary experience.
and this is part of what makes them lively antidotes to the repetitions of material life. Other people will always be somewhat elusive and mysterious, and that keeps relationships interesting and worthy of close attention, regardless of their immediate utility. Love by its very nature. The philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote, is unworldly.
Okay, love by its very nature.
Is unworldly.
Can you explain a little bit?
Well, love is hard to define.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a chemical reaction, it's
Mm-hmm.
a psychological reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it is sometimes people say it's like magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, but you can't define it well.
Okay, okay. Because of the
Because of their centrality in our daily experience, Relationships are a powerful and pragmatic part of life's puzzle. This pragmatic value has gone underappreciated in modern times. Relationships are the foundation of our lives, intrinsic to everything we do and everything we are. Even things like income and achievement that on first glance seem unconnected to relationships can in practice be hard to separate from them. What would achievement mean if there was no one around to appreciate it? What would income mean if if there was no one we could share it with? No social environment to give it meaning. So, relationships give everything we do meaning. Things like income and achievement. You know, what do that has to do with relationships is that question. Well, the answer is that uh, what would an achievement if you were to achieve a educational goal?
Mm-hmm.
What would that mean if there was no one to say, "Hey, look what I've done,"
Mm-mm.
or if you made uh, $1 million doing something,
Mm-hmm.
and you wanted to say, "Hey, look at me! Look, I've made this income."
Okay.
If you had no one to share it with,
Uh-huh.
so what would the money mean? There would be
Uh,
no meaning to it.
okay.
If there was no one to share your achievement with, what would that achievement mean? Nothing.
Mm, okay. So you have to have someone like have relationship to you, and you can share your plan, and you can share your experience.
That's right.
Mm-mm-mm.
The engine of a good life is not the self, as John Marsden believed, but rather our connection to others, as Leo DeMarco's life demonstrates. The movement of the engine are those feelings inside us that our ancestors passed down, from the biggest heartbreaks to the subtle sensations of camaraderie, to the sadness of loss, to the exhilaration of romantic love, or as John Kabat-Zinn called it, borrowing a line from Zorba the Greek, the full catastrophe. It's there that the good life happens, in the real time, momentarily experience of connection.
It's there that the good life happens in the real time, momentary experience of connection.
Yes, that's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You might be thinking right now, okay, sure, but how? How do I change my relationships for the better?
Mm,
I just can't snap my fingers.
mm,
What would change even look like? Where do I start?
mm,
That's why I always say, hey, change is possible, but it takes a while for it to occur sometimes.
mm, mm.
Changing your life, especially your habits of daily living, can be challenging. Many of us start out with the best of intentions to improve our lives, only to be overwhelmed by the forces of our well worn mental habits and the momentum of the culture we live in. It's tempting when confronting the complexity of life to say, "I've tried, but I just cannot figure this out. I'll just go with the flow." This is I think I've known a lot of people, and I've been in this situation here when when I or I saw other people or myself, I would see the complexity of life and say, I've tried, but I just can't figure this out. And I'll
Mm-mm-mm.
just go with the flow.
Oh, okay. So it's mean like give up or
Basically,
something.
that's right.
Mm.
That means you're giving up on something, on attempting to do something.
Because it feel like a hard.
Yeah, like you're not going to be successful.
In your thought. Maybe you drink a little bit coffee
Let me
and
take a
I
sip
will
here.
read this one. We see it all that we see it all the time in our clinical practice. When a person steers in one direction for much of their lives.
And that path feels less than full. They find it difficult to open themselves to the possibility that a different fruitful path actually exists. These are people that they just want to travel down one path,
Mm-hmm.
one way. They don't see that there's possibility that there's another way to achieve a
Uh-huh.
goal. Catherine's situation could have easily spiraled downward.
Uh-huh.
She was able to recognize what was outside of her control, whether she could carry a pregnancy to term, and what was within her control, how she could nurture her relationship with her husband. They were able to maintain a close and forgiving relationship throughout this trial in their life. Luckily, Catherine did eventually become pregnant and give birth to a son,
Hmm.
whom she referred her
Miracle.
to as her miracle baby.
Uh-huh.
But even before that final outcome, Catherine had won an important battle.
Mm.
She'd faced a difficult challenge head on, made good choices about how she would respond to it, and turned her attention towards nurturing the relationship that was most affected and that would help get her through her ordeal. The lives in the Harvard study and many other studies tell us that every life takes twists and turns and that the choices we make matter. These lives are evident that rich possibilities to improve emotional well being are available at every stage and every situation of life. So I like this paragraph here in that what it's saying is that even though life takes twists and turns and that the choices we make do matter and that there is a real possibility to improve emotional well-being at every stage of life and from every situation in life if we continue to work at it. I think that's really what this little paragraph is saying.
Okay.
Every life takes twists and turns. And you and I have both been through that, and that the choices we make do matter.
Mm-hmm.
The experiences, the happiness,
Mm-hmm.
have always had a chance of being there if we made the right choices.
Mm. Yes.
The chapters that follow contain a lot of research and personal stories, and we hope, particularly in these stories, that you will recognize parts of yourself in the people you care about. We also hope that these stories of mistakes and redemption, of both disconnection and love, will encourage you to reflect on the similarities in your own life, to think about areas that are going well for you and areas that you might like to improve. Each of us has a storehouse of experience to draw on that can point us in the direction of happiness. So we all have experiences.
Yes.
We have the experience that we can draw on and say, hey, if we do this, life will be better. If
Okay.
we do that, life will not be better, so let's change it.
Okay.
We have choices.
We have choice.
We begin with a wide lens, a kind of satellite view of the human life span. Locating yourself on this map will help get you started because before you can get where you're going, you first have to know where you are.
You have to know where you are. This is finish chapter 2. So you want to
Well, let's review what we just went through.
okay. Chapter 2 we're talking about why relationships matter.
Uh,
So overall, what do you think?
I think chapter 2 sets up facts and knowledge that we have the ability to change the outcome of our life,
Mm-hmm.
and that the biggest part of that outcome or that change is how we have relationships with others.
Okay.
You know, we have social groups that we're part of. We have friends.
Mm-hmm.
We have, most importantly, each other.
Yes.
And friends, or us personally as a
Uh-huh.
couple,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we support each other.
Yes.
And if we keep that up, this book is saying we will probably live a happy life.
Mm. They're talking about we have
We'll be
choices.
happier. Yes.
Yeah, we have choices to, you know, pick up and continue live for that to get more happier.
To make choices to become happier, uh, just from supporting each other,
Uh-huh.
our friends, our neighbors. You know, life is happier if you have friends who can come and help you, or if you can go and help a friend
Mm.
in times of needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's building a community. It's building relationships, uh, and that relationships are so important in our mental well-being.
So that is the human need is like a social uh, it is enclosed in the family too, not only the social outside the family. So everything they're talking everything.
Yes,
Okay.
and if you look at here in our uh, in our country,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when a disaster occurs,
Uh-huh.
we come together. We go out and we help each other recover from a major disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they had an EF5 tornado hit
Mm.
Joplin, Missouri.
Oh, I
And
remember that.
it was so destructive. I mean,
Yes.
it just literally leveled areas of that city.
Uh-huh.
Yet the people that were not affected
Mm-hmm.
came together and they poured in help and materials to the city of Joplin and to the people, the victims of that disaster.
That is just donate. Don't you did not get any money back, right? Just
That's right.
donate from your heart, your
You
spirit.
donated your time, your
Mm-hmm.
effort.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you donated materials like clothing, food,
Mm-hmm.
water,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a coming together for the
Mm-hmm.
community and those surrounding it.
Okay.
When a hurricane comes through and it devastates an area, again, neighbors, family, they come together to help the people that were affected.
Mm-hmm.
The nation itself comes together and sends in help. So, this is part of the community of the relationship of community. And this is the bigger picture, but the smaller picture is like couples, husband, wife, or partners, uh, helping each other
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, physically, um, just supporting each other in times of need.
Okay. So I think we have time to study more. Just maybe 2 or 3 pages for the chapter 3. Chapter 3 talking about relationships on the winding road of life.
Yes, our destiny is frequently met in the very paths we take to avoid it. That's John de La Fontaine. Harvard Study Questionnaire 1975. Can you tell us the life issues that have faced you after age 50 that did not seem so important when you were younger? How have you tried to master these issues? As Wes Travers was approaching his 60s, he found himself in a reflective mood. Looking back on his life, he was trying to square his past experiences with the man he was now. How did he get to this place? What events were pivotal? One event in particular kept coming back to him, though he had only the barest memory of it. When he was 7 years old, his father packed a small bag, walked out the front door of his family third floor tenant apartment in the West End of Boston, and never came back. Wes, his mother, and his 3 siblings had no idea how they would make it a living without him, but they also felt a certain relief. With, when each child was a toddler, their father was gentle and attentive, but as they grew, he changed. He became violent and short tempered, and often brutally beat the older children, sometimes until they bled.
Wow.
He came home drunk in the middle of the night. He was unfaithful to Wes's mother. After he left, a new and welcome peace settled in the home. But so did a new set of struggles and financial responsibilities for the children, who were plunged into adult worries way too soon. His father's absence affected everything about Wes's formative years. I wonder what my life would have been like if he'd stuck around, Wes told the study later. I don't know if it would have been even been better or worse, but I think about it. When the Harvard study met Wes at the age of 14, his life had already been a long sequence of challenges. His posture was a little stooped, and he suffered from
Strabismus.
Yes, a condition that caused one of his eyes to wander. Because of his shyness and difficulty putting his thoughts into words, he struggled to tell the Harvard study exactly what his life was like. But he managed to provide a basic picture. School was difficult for him. He couldn't focus, he daydreamed, and he got bad grades in just about every subject. When asked, "What's your ambition in life?" Wes said, "To be a cook." Like most of us at that age, or really any age, Wes had a hard time seeing beyond his present experience. Overwhelmed by his current troubles, he had no plans and little hope for his future. But the road he would take was not yet decided. If we could go back now and show his teen self what was to come, he would be very surprised how his life turned out. As we'll see, it was not at all as he expected. The map and the territory.
So
So
explain this
this
one first.
is a person of the Harvard study,
Uh-huh.
one of the study participants,
Mm-hmm.
and he was interviewed at age 14.
Uh-huh.
And this was his life.
Mm.
When he was young,
Mm-hmm.
his father left.
Okay. He lived with his mom.
He lived with his mom. His mom was a single parent
Okay.
and had 4 children.
Okay.
Now, for some, would have said, "Oh, that's terrible." But because his father had been abusive,
Okay.
it was a relief, actually, I think. He said that, uh, he said, "I don't know if it would have been better or worse if his father had stuck around, but I think about it." So he's not sure whether his
If
life would have been better or if it would have been worse
if
if his father had stayed with his mom.
okay.
But after his father left, he said that a new and welcome peace settled in the home. So while financially they struggled, emotionally things were more peaceful in the house.
Okay.
And he was not sure. Well, he said he wanted to be a cook.
Mm.
That was his goal in life.
Uh-huh.
And the last paragraph of that section said he would be very surprised how his life turned out. It was not as he expected.
It's not at all
As he expected.
expected. Okay. We will go
So, the
more.
map and the territory.
Mm-hmm.
One of the advantages of a lifetime spanning longitudinal study is that it can be used to map the entire road of a person took over the course of their life.
Uh-huh.
This allows events and challenges to be seen in the flow of everything that came before and after. We can trace the lefts and the rights, the dead ends, the hills and the valleys, and get a sense of the longer journey. Not just what happened, but how one thing may have led to another and why. This there is a story-like quality to these kinds of records. It's hard to read them and not feel something for the participants, which is as it should be. The first and foremost, these records are of personal adventures in being human. When these adventures are combined with hundreds of others and translated carefully into numbers, however, they become the raw material of science, revealing not just lives, but patterns of lives. If you were to place your life's timeline along the timelines of everyone else reading this book, a set of patterns similar to those of the Harvard study participants would emerge. Your life would be unique in some of its specifics, as would everyone's, but striking similarities would emerge across gender, culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and social economic background. Wes had an abusive father, but for you, it might have been tensions in your parents' marriage that left you feeling deep anxiety, or a learning disability that led to bullying and fear at school. These shared human experiences and repeating patterns of life remind us that regardless of how solitary our own struggles and challenges feel in this moment, there are others who have gone through similar things in the past, and others going through them at this very moment. In this way, the outward emotionless material of science can have a very moving effect. It can remind us that we are not alone.
Mm, remind us that we are not alone.
In this way, the outward emotionless material of science can have a very moving effect. It can remind us that we are not alone. And of course, the other thing we all share is the ever changing nature of our lives and even of ourselves. Often these changes are so gradual that we can't see them. Our perception is that we are like an unchanging rock in a stream as the world flows around us. But that perception is mistaken. We are forever changing from what we are into what we will be. This chapter is about taking a bird's eye view of these patterns and that winding path of change. Stepping back and considering the big picture illuminates aspects of our own experience, how we are changing and what we can expect, and also what others are going through. Life looks different at age 20 than it does at age 50 or age 80.
Life looks different at eight or at
Age
age
20
20.
than it does at age
Oh, okay,
50.
okay. Mhm.
The old saying, where you stand depends on where you sit, is apt. How we see the world depends on our vantage point. This is a first basic step that we use as therapists and interviewers when we're getting to know someone. If we sit down with a person and they are 35, we have a few good guesses about which twists and turns have passed for them and which might still be ahead. Nobody fits the model perfectly. Life is too interesting for that. But by considering a person's stage in life, we can jumpstart the process of understanding their experience. The same effort is useful for any person in your life and even for yourself. Knowing that you're not alone, that there are predictable challenges that many people face, makes living ever so slightly easier. When we asked study participants what they thought was most valuable about taking part in a 80-year study, many of them said that it gave them an opportunity to take stock of their life at regular intervals. Wes was one of these participants. He mentioned more than once that devoting a few moments to reflect on how he felt and what his life was like, helped him appreciate what he already had and to see what he wanted. The good news is that you don't need to be part of a study to do this. It only takes a little effort and a little self reflection. We hope this chapter will point this way.
Okay, so the chapter 3, they point to relationships on the winding road of life. And then they're talking about these young boys, the father left and mother take care of him, took care
Mhm.
of him. And finally, he said it's not at all as he expect on his
Well,
life. And then this one.
the the beginning of the story sets the stage.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about one of the participants
Mm-hmm.
and it sets his background.
Okay.
And what the reason for that was it gave you an understanding of where he was when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started talking about the map and the territory.
Mm-hmm.
One of the advantages of a lifetime spanning longitudinal study is that it can be used to map the entire road of a person's over the course of their life.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows the road that they've taken in life
Mm.
from point A
Mm-hmm.
to point B,
Uh-huh.
point C,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows the ups, the downs, uh, the decisions a
Mm-hmm.
person has taken in life.
Okay.
And so it's a map of the person's life. And when they take
Map, not curve. It's map, just map, not curve of life.
yeah, it's a
It's map.
map of the person's life.
Okay.
And it's hard to says when these adventures are combined with hundreds of others
Uh-huh.
and it's translated into numbers, it becomes the raw material for science, revealing the patterns of life. So it's also saying that if you were to take your life patterns
Mm-hmm.
and put it up there and compare it to others,
Mm-hmm.
you could find a lot of similarities, a lot of things that are similar.
Mm-mm.
Uh, for, let's see, Wes had an abusive father, but for you, it might have been tensions in your parents' family. Maybe your mother and father fought. So while Wes's father was abusive, maybe your parents fought, or maybe one of your parents were, uh, well, they never paid attention.
Mm. Like you feel like abandoned,
Yes,
loneliness.
yes. So, or if you were in school, maybe some people bullied you.
Uh-huh.
So there are similarities in people's lives.
Okay. I think it's look like the curve, graph of life, up and down, and sometimes it's shooting up, sometimes dropping down.
Yeah. Well, they the I would say the defining sentence in this section is this here. Uh, in this way, the outward emotionless material of science can have a very moving effect. It can remind us that we are not alone. So there are other people like us.
Mm-hmm.
People that have an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm the only one that has this addiction
Problem.
or this problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true.
Mm.
Others have that issue too.
Okay.
So the thing is that we all share is the ever-changing nature of our life and even ourselves. So these changes sometimes that occur in our lives can be so slow we don't notice them,
Mm.
but they do occur. So that's where this section.
We have about 5 minutes. You want to read more?
No,
We own mini hardware study. And this one you already explained, right?
well, they start talking in this section that as therapists and interviewers, when they're getting to know someone,
Mm-hmm.
they sit down with the person,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're like 25, they have a few good guesses about which have or what has happened in that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
If they're at age 35, they have a general idea what has occurred.
Mm.
So they can take those guesses and they can use them to start evaluating. Life is too interesting. Nobody fits the model perfect. Life is too interesting. In other words, nobody fits they say, oh, you're a white male in your 60s. You fit this model here.
Mm.
Well, nobody fits the model perfectly. Life is too interesting for that. Everybody has different experiences that have shaped them.
This one like too much.
Life is too, that's right. Life
Too
is
much interesting for
right
that.
here. Nobody fits the model. So I would underline that.
Nobody fit the model
perfectly.
perfectly. Life is too interesting for that. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, this is what they say, that when a therapist or a interviewer is looking at a person,
Uh-huh.
they have some good guesses about where they are,
Okay.
but they don't know for sure.
Mm.
Now, the same effort is useful in any person in your life, even for yourself. Knowing that you're not alone, that there are predictable challenges that many people face, makes living ever so slightly easier. Again, they're saying you are not alone. You should know that you're not alone.
Mm.
But some people feel that they are alone, but you're not. And that
The way they try to tell you you're not alone, it means in this world have someone similar your life and your way.
well, close
Mm.
to your life.
Mm.
And they said in this last paragraph of this section, and this is sort of important, the participants said that many of them gave, of this, many participants of this study had the opportunity to reflect back on what has occurred in their life. And this gave them an opportunity to look at their life at regular interviews. He mentioned, Wes mentioned that more than once, that by taking some moments to reflect on how he felt and what his life was like, helped him appreciate what he already had and to see what he wanted. So, this is pretty important. If we take time to reflect uh, on how he felt or how we felt
Mm-hmm.
or feel and what our life is like, well, we can might be appreciate uh, what we already have or have been through and where we might want to head in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, by thinking about what we've been through, what we experienced,
Mm-hmm.
good and bad, but what we have right now,
Mm-hmm.
sort of makes us able to say, oh, okay, we've had a pretty good life,
Mm-hmm.
or we've uh, we maybe need to work on this section uh, for something in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes us consider our choices. That's how I feel. I don't know when if you were to sit and think, okay, this is what I've been through. These are the choices I've made.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and, and this is where I'm at right now in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to go for in the future? What do I need to think about?
Okay.
And so I think it helps if you can sit down and reflect on, where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
You start thinking about, okay, well, maybe I need to work on this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be better. It's making choices.
Okay. So all experience in your life is the choice is experience to help you to get the choice.
Well, yeah, and they're talking about Wes right now, and uh, what I'm curious and I look forward to tomorrow
Uh-huh.
is to see where Wes's life took him.
Oh yes, because it seemed like when he was young, he had some problem, mentally problem with the family, something like that. That I see because father left, and with mother, and he did not like action the right way to toward to people in some way, right?
Who? His father.
He himself.
Well, he himself was shy.
Oh,
Wes was shy.
so I misunderstood then.
And Wes also he was bullied in school.
Oh, someone bully him. Oh
Yes.
my God, I thought he bullied someone.
No.
Someone bully
Wes
him.
Wes had a slight handicap. One of his eyes would wander,
Oh.
and his back was stooped. So
Mm.
he was bullied,
Okay.
and that's why in this book it says he had no idea where his life was taking him.
Okay, we will continue tomorrow and let's see how the West life end up.
Yes, yes.
His future that he said it's not like he thought. it's not as like he expect. I would like to know how it's going on. So we
Yes,
will
I'm curious about his roadmap of where life took him. So
tomorrow, same time, about 10
10
o'clock
o'clock,
in the
yes.
morning, we will continue study or learn from this book again. Thank you for 3 people right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your support and watching us. And we will see you again tomorrow. Have a good day for people in America. And have a great night
Yeah.
for people overseas, especially in Thailand or somewhere else that watching.
People in America, take care. The weather is pretty bad in parts. Try and stay warm and help each other out there.
Praying for people in California,
Yes.
in
We've got some bad weather and some bad fires going on in America. So be aware of your neighbors. Help them if you can. You'll be blessed in more ways than one.
and also people in New Orleans, Louisiana, right?
Yeah, the victims, the families of the people that were killed and injured. You know, consider these people, and may they recover and have a blessed life.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.